Ta-da! Finished paint! Oh wait, nope, that didn't happen. We'll get into that. But this week, we did get a few little things done, as per usual, and some painting did happen. Removed all the rust from here. The rest of the erosion mat's been installed. And the last of the floor has been pulled up for repurposing. And yes, some of the painting has begun. The upper level is completely primed. Good morning, it's Monday, and I beat the sheetrockers in. Yeah, I mean, I can understand, honestly. Well, A, I was running a little early, and B, they're pretty much working half days right now. As they get the mud in, then they can't do anything. I am gonna try to stay out of their way. We have a little bit of a boiler snafu that I need to address. And then hopefully I can get these guys to do the primary suite first, and then we can get in there and get that floor torn up. I'll show you what I mean by that. Is we're repurposing this floor. We're gonna bring this back to life, if you can believe it. And I needed to continue that direction, so we need more wood. And the primary has that wood. So I want to get in here, get this torn up, but I don't want to be in their way while they're in here doing their mud and sand and all that stuff. So hopefully they can start here, and then I can get in here after they're done, and then they can go in the rest of the house. And then I just, don't touch the walls. All right. Should have a lookout back. Yeah, it's a little bit snowy yet. Because I want to get those, what's that called? Erosion. That erosion matting, I want to get that on there. If we can find it. It's so late in the year, it'd be hard to find. But we'll see. So here's my boiler snafu. See this? A bit of water there. And I'll show you on here. A bit of rust on top of the brand new boiler. I mean, it's pretty bad. And this is what I mean about the water that comes on the condensate. This water should be going down that condensate line, not dripping here. And that's how corrosive it is. This leaked for one day before I put this little bin here. So I showed the boiler guy when he popped in one day that this was happening, and his solution is to put a little drain cock right here and drain it in. That's not okay by me. So, because what happens? All right, let me show you what's going on here. So the exhaust is coming out of here and going out this line, right? And as it's going out in a vapor form. It hits that cold outside air, and so it recondenses, right? And starts dripping. Well, in the past, before I put on that large snorkel, if you will, to vent it the way it's meant to be vented. So before I had it just shooting straight out, and so all that vapor would just go out and then condense on whatever surface it found. But now it goes out, goes up, and then out. Because of that little scenario, as the vapor travels up that trunk line, it's condensing on that cold pipe and then falls down and then runs back this direction. And this joint isn't glued properly. And what's happening is it's leaking out. So what should be happening is that condensate should be flowing down through here, back into the unit, and then out into the condensate trap that we created last week. The acid loves to eat metal. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna cut this apart, we're gonna fix it appropriately, and move on with our day. I do wanna clean that up and fix it too. I really don't like selling a house with a brand new boiler and having it rusty like that. Well, here's why it leaked. you can see, like, this is full penetration when you put your pipe in. This is all the way down here. And he's got about, I'd call that 3/8 of an inch. So it looks like it actually came from up here and came out here and then leaked out. Look inside here. Oh, look at that. It's not even glued. Oh, we're gonna have a problem. I'm gonna try to break that out. Yep, put a screwdriver in there, she popped right out of there. Telling me not enough glue. Should be using a cutter to cut the pipe out of the inside of the hub like this. I have to apologize for this section. I didn't do a great job filming, but I did make a short on this, so if you're interested in more detail, check that out. But it's simple, it's the boiler cover. I pulled it apart, ground out all the rust, backfilled it with Bondo, sand prime paint. Super simple, and it turned out spot on. I'll show you that here in just a moment. You know, I'm a little disappointed in the boiler guide, but the good news is that I've been able to fit all these random repairs into the schedule without it impacting the schedule at all. All because, you know, we have to wait for sheetrock before we can get into anything else. I have this project here, and you know, it'll take me another day, maybe 2 days, because you know this day's almost over with, so I'm just now getting started. But it was good to have something to do. I'm sure I would have come up with something, but man, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, figuring out projects to do while the sheetrockers are here. From that aspect, it's been good, I guess. To have to fix something that I shouldn't have to fix. Right? It's a weird feeling. I really don't know how to describe it. Well, whatever. For now, let's get back to pulling this floor up, shall we? Yeah. you notice I have a bit of a technique here. For one, grab some knee pads. This is just brutal. But you get your pry bar underneath, and you pull the end of the pry bar towards you, rolling the board up this way toward you. That way you don't snap the other side of the groove that's on the back side of this board. And you always want to pull on the tongue side. That's where the nail is. And so what I do is I like to work it, and then I just walk it around, right? Each board I only have to use the hammer as a hammer one time, and then you just peel it and walk it across. Sometimes you get lucky enough and she will pop free for you. Twist and wiggle. Twist and wiggle. Got it. Now I'm sure someone out there is going to say, oh, you should just peel up all the floor and then de-nail it all together. I've done it that way. I've actually timed myself in 2 similar sized rooms in square footage, and it ended up being a wash. It really was. And this way, I know each board is done. Now with that said, if I had someone else working with me, I totally would just rip the whole floor up and have them de-nail it. And also while you're going along, it's a pretty good idea to try to find any nails that stayed in the floor. Make for less work later. Let me get you in here to see this. I have a seam right here between the 2 boards, and what I don't want to have happen is have this face of this pop off when I go to pry up on this edge. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop right here where I am with this pry bar, move to this board and start getting this board up, and then come back to grab this one. That is way harder when there's a tripod in the way. Now you see how it's starting to split here? That's what we want to see. Now we can go back to this one, work them both up at the same time, and then I won't split this one up. Wiggle. There it is. You can see that this board has the tongue on it, so if I pry up on this, it's going to want to snap this face off, and I'll show you what it looks like. So down on the other end, I had just done this to this little chunk. I didn't care. I didn't need to save this little piece. I don't see the point. So this piece sat here, right? And then the other piece over there. But as I pried up on it, it just boop, snapped the top of this right off. So that's what you'll want to do, especially on a nice long piece. When you're reclaiming a floor this old, it's really critical to try to save as many good pieces as possible. So having a little tip like that can be very beneficial, especially the long pieces. You want to keep them as intact as possible, because they are the holy grail when it comes to reclaiming a floor. Here's another little tip for you. See, all I'm doing is pounding the nail back out. It comes up through here, and then come over, yank it out. Well, this one's giving me a hard time. I could probably get it if I mess with it, but I want to show you this. So if you can't get that nail to pop through, take your claw or your hammer and just wrap it around the nail, and she'll draw the nail through the board, like so. It does make a bigger hole on this side, But the reality is, you'll be fine. Well, I'll get these stacked up and then we'll call it a night. Woo. Woo. Yep, it's late. Good night. See you tomorrow. So the guys were here, but one of their wives called and said that her car broke down, so off they went. Well, we gotta take care of our wives, right? So that's fine. What that does do is it gives me access to this room a lot earlier than normal. I'm going to finish tearing out all this floor and we'll just keep on keeping on. I do wonder if it means we'll get into the finished paint before this week's out. Today's Wednesday. It doesn't feel promising, does it? They'll have to prime the entire house tomorrow and then paint the entire house on Friday. And have to mask the entire house tomorrow. I don't know. I guess time will tell. Whew. Well, all we can do is get this floor out. Let's do that. So you can see, we only have, I don't know, almost half the room left. This whole section here is just completely rotted, so we're just gonna, strip that up and toss it. Won't even bother trying to reclaim what's possible there. Actually, I don't think there is anything. I think it's all rotted. All right, well, let me go grab my tools. Now that the sheetrock crew is pretty well done with mudding, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to run around and foam in all the windows between the window and the framing. Now, this is a detail that even if you're living in a finished home, something you could address simply by popping off the outer casing around your window, so that trim piece. Pop it off and have a look inside there and see if there's insulation. Chances are pretty good someone just wedged in some fiberglass. To know if that's actually doing anything or not, it's hard to say. It really is. Unless you have the thermal imaging. Now, I'm not telling you to run out and get this little fancy-dancy camera, but I will tell you that fiberglass, if it's compressed at all, is rendered useless. And chances are, if you pull that fiberglass out, it's going to be all kind of black and brown and dingy looking. That's because air has been transferring through it, and the dirt particles in the air have been caught in it. So it's acting like a filter, not insulation. If you were to pop your trim off, you could yank that insulation out and or just verify if you have foam in there. And then when you go through, just spray it in, spray it lightly. Give it a chance to expand and come out, because it can come out and curl, and if it dries on your finished surface, oh, is it a pain to clean. So take it from me, you don't need to learn that lesson. Just spray it nice and evenly, a light pull on a trigger, it'll get it taken care of. I'll show you what happens when you have just a small gap. I purposely sprayed this window and left a gap down here, so let's have a look at it. All right, I have a wall surface temperature of 69, foam temperature of 67, that's really good. And we come across to the gap that I left, 54, 55, yeah, so we'll call it 54. So that shows just even a small gap can have over a 10-degree drop in it. Now, if it were windy outside, that would be even lower. Because right now it's just ambient air just sitting there. And so you get thermal transfer from the outside of the building into that small cavity, and we're getting that much of a drop. You know, if you have that much of a drop at every single window, you're gonna lose a lot of heat. That's a lot of money. And for something as simple as just popping off your trim and then, repainting and caulking afterwards, in my book, totally worth it. I'm gonna spray it before I forget.
So you can see it ever so slowly closing that gap from there to there. That's pretty sweet. Well, there we have it. All set. That same gap that was 10 degrees cooler is now the warmest spot. That's probably because the chemical reaction is still happening. Yeah, it's gotta be. You wanna know how to tell if the sheetrocker you hired is worth that check you just wrote? Right here. A piece of PVC with a couple of light bulbs taped to the end of it, and a yardstick with a pencil taped to the end of it. Super low tech, but this step right here differentiates a professional from someone who says they can do it, but actually doesn't deliver. I'll give you a little background of why I'm so particular about this. Now we're in my house, where I live, not Frankie. And I want to show you why I'm so particular about this. This wall right next to me, I did a project a couple years back where I pulled an entire landing off and blah, blah, blah. I had to patch this sheetrock. Come on, Tef, come on up. And when I did that, I had a very limited amount of time. I'm not trying to make excuses, just giving you a story, right? And it got to the point where my family had been put out of this house for about a month, and it was right before Christmas, and I wanted to get my family back in this house. And so one of the shortcuts I took was when I patched this ceiling, or this wall, I didn't take the time to do that little shadow test. And because of it, I'll show you what happened. Pay attention right about here, I think. I mean, I can't even see it right now, the way the lights are on. But I'll switch the lights and I'll show you what happens. Now you can totally see this line right there. Where one sheet ends and the original sheet was, I didn't feather this out nearly as well as I should have. And because of that, I can't have those lights on in the loft and be at my own kitchen table because I see that and it drives me bonkers. If you flip the lights on the other way, you can't see anything. It's crazy. That's why that shadow test is so important. In the comments on other videos, I've had people write, why don't you do the sheetrock, Sean? Sean, why don't you just do the sheetrock? And my answer to that is, yes, I can do it. Yes, it can look okay, but it's never perfect. And for me to stand behind something, for me to sell this to someone in the future, for me to work for another customer, it has to be perfect. I won't accept anything less. And what I just learned from these guys is this super simple little trick. Now, I've done it similarly with just a work light, set it in parts of the room and let it shadow. These guys take it to a whole nother level. I'll show you right here. I'm busy, I'm a camera boy.
Yeah.
I've moved up in the world.
You gave yourself a promotion?
I did.
There. Yeah, I see some of the stuff and it's a little dark there, you don't see that.
Right.
Yeah, well that's gonna be part of it. So.
Right. But without your light, you can't see it.
Well, you do this, oh beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's not much. You come back with a sand pole, sand the marks off, and then you're good to go. You know what? It's a hard job. And to be honest with you, some of this stuff you probably never see it once it's painted. You know, nobody comes up and do that, but if you're on the job, you might as well take care of it.
So what Pete is doing, he takes that light, runs it across the surface of a wall or ceiling, and if there's a high spot, it casts a shadow. He takes his pencil, marks where that shadow is, you sand it out, and it's all set. It is so simple. And like we said in the short that we did, it only took him about half an hour to run through the entire house and start sanding. It's such a simple step for a professional to do, and if whoever you hire isn't doing that, you really should consider an alternative. Or show them this video, and then they can go ahead and do it themselves. To show you, the rest of that wood over there is completely not usable. Let me show you what's going on. So obviously over here we already knew that wood was rotted and the subfloor is badly damaged as well. I stepped on this and it was awful soft. Yeah, so this is gonna have to get resheathed. I'm gonna have to send the sheetrockers a message to let them know that this corner is super soft. I don't want them to get hurt. I don't think I have any plywood to throw over it. I'll have a look. But I was hoping that from basically this point out was gonna be salvageable. And what I'm finding is they put these 16 penny nails in. There's like rows of them. Yeah, here's one right here. And there's another one there, and there, and there. I don't know what the history is on it, but there's also a crack correlated to every one of these nails. I remember a long time ago, and if you haven't seen this video, you should really go back and have a look at it. The thumbnail, something's missing. And I'm standing in a ditch in the driveway over here. There's something missing. It was the first missing video. And the entire foundation underneath this section, we're on technically the second story right now. Underneath here was gone. I'm not saying it was damaged, it was rotted, yeah. No, it was physically missing. My thought is that maybe this wall over here fell and the floor started buckling, and this was the person's solution, was to just nail the living daylights out of it. That's the only thing I can come up with. I'm not gonna bother using proper technique and pulling this up. We're just gonna rip this out, take it to the dump trailer and call it good. There's no point in trying to salvage any of this. The cracks down the center and the big holes from the 16 penny nails, it's just gonna be a waste of my time. And then we'll pull all this up and see how bad this subfloor issue is. I hope we don't have to resheathe a lot of it, but yeah, we do what we do. Ugh, okay. Back to time lapse. Well, it's not terrible. I can see the tops of the floor joists and they look fine. Obviously I'll have a better look at them once I tear this up, but it's looking pretty promising right now. So tomorrow, come in, scrape this up, denail. Is demolition ever gonna stop on this job? I'm in sheetrock, for crying out loud. When is it going to end? Bah. Bah, bah, bah. All right. Good night. I'll see you in the morning.
been doing a great job teaching me the ins and outs of what he does. And, you know, I'm probably grasping 15%, 20% of what he's saying. And I could probably use those things that I've actually learned in future projects. But it really goes to show that anyone who does any trade day in and day out, there's so many nuances to it, and there's so many things that you just, if you want it done absolutely right and you want it done in a decent amount of time, you have to hire a professional, someone who really knows what they're doing, and just get it done, get it over with. Yeah. Anyway, I'm really pleased with the way it's coming out. You know, this building was really wonky, and it still has its issues with plumb level and square, but I mean, she's really coming along. Having a primer on, you can really start to see where everything's going to be finished, and it's going to be pretty sweet. I'm pretty excited. There's a heck of a lot of work coming now. This last couple weeks, you know, piecing together those little projects, it's good. You know, I'm doing things I actually wouldn't otherwise have done, or things I'm doing now I would have waited until the very end to do, and so it's all good. It's all good. And our latest estimate of completion of paint is going to be Wednesday of next week. So even after you're seeing this, if you're watching it on Tuesday, it still won't be done. And I said I was going to be done for this week. Bah. Oh well. Life happens. Projects are longer than you always expect. It's fine. Well, thank you for stopping by High Peaks Home.